I challenge you to a duel. It's the only argument I need.
I don't want to talk to you no more, you.
You got a lot of nerve.
Soon you will know what it's like to be defeated.
Stop defending him, Sean.
All right, let's go.
Hey, sleepers, we are halfway through the fantasy football regular season now. It is that time of year when waivers are more important than ever. Welcome to the Sleeper Wire Great Debate Show. As always, I am your host, Professor Chris, and today, for the first time on the Great Debate, I got producer Steve. What's going on, Steve? How you doing, man?
Go easy on me, Professor Chris. This is a new experience for me.
Well, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you on.
It's always a pleasure to try new things, especially with you leading the way. So this is my first debate. Listeners and fans out there, let me know how I did. Leave comments and stuff, please.
Yep, tweet at him. There you go.
Yes.
All right, guys. If you like what you hear on The Great Debate, please go to iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher, wherever you listen to us. Drop us a 5-star rating and leave us a nice review. Sleeper Wire is a charity working for the prevention and treatment of chronic Lyme disease. So every little review, every little rating certainly helps boost us up a little bit. So if you can find it in your heart, go do that for us. All right, Steve, so this show is called The Great Debate because that's exactly what we're going to be doing. It's a debate. It's not an argument. We get 2.5 minutes to argue for our player, 90 seconds for rebuttals, and then we get final thoughts. And that's it. No winner and no loser, so that's good, right?
That's safe. I like that.
Oh, participation trophies all around.
Good. I need one. I had a rough week in fantasy, so a participation trophy would ease the pain.
There we go. So no winner, no loser, just unbiased, objective, stats-based arguments for and against these two guys. So we take those gut feelings and throw them out the window, and we dig into some of the numbers here. And today, got two wide receivers, and this is more of a rest-of-season great debate than it is a this-week great debate. We're doing Christian Kirk versus Anthony Miller. And I've got Christian Kirk, Steve has Anthony Miller, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it off here. So Christian Kirk, the second-round pick out of Texas A&M, has started to show that he can be a valuable fantasy asset for the last month or so. 8, 7, 4, 7, 6, 7. That's the number of targets that Christian Kirk has received each of the last 6 weeks with Josh Rosen at quarterback for a total of 46 targets, and that's on the season, not the last 6 weeks, but 46 targets on the season. That is right there with Sammy Watkins, D.D. Westbrook, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, Deshaun Jackson, all guys who are very rosterable in fantasy football. He's turned those 46 targets into 31 catches, 410 yards, and 2 touchdowns, which means through 8 games on the season, he's on pace for 62 catches, 820 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Not half bad, right? You know who else had nearly identical stats to that last season? Cooper Kupp, Devin Funchess, Michael Crabtree, Randall Cobb, all guys who finished in the top 40 at the end of 2017. Those aren't stats that are going to blow anybody away, but these are stats that are going to get you fantasy production. Now, yeah, we're not talking about Antonio Brown or DeAndre Hopkins or Odell Beckham Jr. We're talking about those guys who are on waivers who can definitely be a team's wide receiver 4 or 5, especially during this bye week hell that we're approaching for the next few weeks. Now, speaking of bye weeks, I get that the Cardinals are on a bye this week. So if you're looking for a plug-in guy for week 9 only, then Christian Kirk's not going to be your guy. Anthony Miller may be the guy to go with, along with guys like Devontae Parker, Antonio Callaway. This is a rest-of-season great debate. Rookie wide receivers generally take a little while to get going, but Christian Kirk and Josh Rosen have developed that rookie bond together. They have an incredibly easy schedule coming up after their bye. They got the Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Packers, Lions, Falcons, Rams, and Seahawks to finish out the second half of the season. The Chiefs are allowing a ton of points to opposing teams, as are the Raiders, Packers, Falcons, and Seahawks. The Chargers, Lions, and Rams may present difficult matchups, but hey, this is a guy who, as of right now, is going to be used during bye weeks for the time being. Week 10 has the Ravens, Broncos, Texans, and Vikings on a bye. Week 11 has the Bills, Browns, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, and 49ers, so 6 teams there. Week 12 has the Chiefs and the Rams on a bye. There are a lot of great fantasy wide receivers who still have yet to have their bye week, and once Week 10 hits, the Cardinals are going to be back from their bye fully rested. All right, Steve, let's hear that rebuttal against Kirk.
Okay, Professor Chris, you mentioned a lot of names around the guy that you chose today. I don't think that's a valid argument. You can't just throw names at people and say, oh, he's going to be similar to these guys, good to these guys. The problems I have with your argument are these. First of all, you're talking about quarterback chemistry. His quarterback is no good. Rosen has only cracked 60% pass completion once this year. Hasn't completed 25 passes in a game, even though his attempts are going up, and his yards per attempt is averaging under 7.7 yards. So that's check down city. This guy is not going deep and he's not aggressive. Christian Kirk is up and down in his catch percentage. He's up and down in his yards per catch. He's only had 2 touchdowns. You mentioned that, but through 8 games, he's had no 100-yard games this season yet, and only 3 games with over 60 yards. That gives him a very low base score of maybe 6 points. Very low floor to me. Granted, there is a little medium ceiling there because he can score, but my problem with this guy is not so much the up and down, but the fact that the team is bad, the quarterback is bad O-line, and I have to disagree with the upcoming schedule. I only see 3 matchups for the rest of the year where I would feel comfortable starting Kirk. Oakland, Detroit, and Atlanta. The other teams on this schedule, their defenses are not bad, and if they can put pressure on the quarterback, he's going to have a real hard time playing against these guys.
All right, let's move over to Anthony Miller. Steve, take it away.
Anthony Miller. This guy has 3 things I look for when I'm targeting somebody on the waiver for the rest of the season. Number 1, skills. He's fast. He's got rapid-fire moves. He accelerates out of cuts, and he fights hard. This guy is strong. He's effective on all 3 levels of the pass game. He is a college walk-on. Well, he was a walk-on in college, so he's got that competitive edge. He's got something to prove. He's a top-notch ball tracker. You watch this guy try to catch the ball. He focuses all the way down the field, makes great body adjustments, can make tough catches, and he works with scrambling quarterbacks like Trubisky. This is something that we're seeing a lot of with Trubisky. He's running around a lot. He's scrambling. Not super accurate yet, but this is a skill set in Anthony Miller that benefits this type of quarterback. He's a little bit bigger in terms of arms and hands than Christian Kirk, so I like that. And this year, granted, the stats aren't great. The floor is kind of low, okay? He's not blowing you away with huge fantasy production yet, but that ceiling is the upside. And that's the second thing I like about this guy. The skills and then the upside. This guy can have some big games. Chicago has playmakers. They are being aggressive. They're playing fast. And when they get guys in space like Anthony Miller, like Tariq Cohen, like these guys catching the ball out of the flat, out of the side, they can make plays, and they need to make plays to stay in games. The other thing I like about this guy is the overall team. The defense is strong. They're keeping the offense in the game. They're getting them good position on the field, and I think they've got a great upcoming schedule. They play Buffalo, Detroit, Giants, Green Bay, and the Vikings twice, and the 49ers as well. So they've got at least 7 to 8 good matchups to close out the season here, where I could see Anthony Miller being a very high upside wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 flex option for you if you happen to lose somebody by injury, or you just need that quick upside. Because at this point in the season, if you're not on a winning record, you're going to have to start adding guys like this who can really give you that big pop and win a game for you, close out the season.
All right, so Anthony Miller, this is a guy who is touchdown or bust. 14 catches on the season, 161 yards. He's happened to get into the end zone 3 times. He's playing behind Allen Robinson, Taylor Gabriel, and Trey Burton when it comes to targets and receptions, and also Tariq Cohen, who is perhaps the best overall weapon on that team. It's, and he is super involved in the passing game. There are a lot of quote-unquote weapons, and I put, weapons in quotes just because they aren't superstars for Trubisky and the Bears, but there are a lot of options for Trubisky. I don't have a whole lot to say against Miller, but that's just because I don't have a whole lot to say about the guy in general. The Bears are 25th in the league in passing attempts, 24th in passing yards, and 23rd in completions. This is not a great offense. Anthony Miller is a deep league flyer at best right now. He's 9% owned, and I think that's for good reason. I'm not even going to be able to use my full 90 seconds on this one. I can't really recommend him unless Allen Robinson stays out or Taylor Gabriel gets injured. Before we move into final thoughts, today's show is sponsored by the great memorabilia site pristineauction.com. They have hundreds of new auctions every single day, and everything is JSA certified, so you know it's all authentic. It's free to join, it's free to bid, and you only pay when you win. Visit pristineauction.com today and let them know that you heard about them from Sleeper Wire. That's PRISTINE auction.com. Taking it back to Christian Kirk here. For the record, I was not saying that he is as good as those guys, even though I think he is or has the potential to be. I'm just saying that their fantasy stats are similar. Talking about, his opportunity here, teams still have to plan for Larry Fitzgerald. He showed that he isn't quite dead yet, like a lot of people thought he was. With last week's performance, 8 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown, definitely his best performance on the season. He's still receiving the second most vertical air yards on his team, though. After, you guessed it, Christian Kirk. At only 30% owned in Yahoo leagues, there is a solid chance that he's available for you to pick up. Now, you can't play him this week because, he's on a bye. But rest of season, if you need a wide receiver after this week, Christian Kirk may be your guy.
All right, now again, Miller is the upside guy I want to have. At this point in the season, we're halfway through. If we're talking beginning of the season, maybe I'm going Kirk to see if he can be consistent. He hasn't shown it to me. Granted, Miller hasn't shown me a great level of consistency, but he has shown me skills on the field that make me think he's a lot more of an Antonio Brown kind of receiver than a Larry Fitzgerald kind of receiver, which I think Kirk is more of fitting into that role, whereas this guy is more of a playmaker. And at the end of the season here, when games start getting tough, I want a playmaker. You talk about the other guys on the team, Robinson, Burton, Cohen. Yeah, they're going wild right now. Cohen especially. Teams are going to start planning to try to shut him down. Robinson hasn't done a whole hell of a lot this season either, and his stats look pretty similar to Miller. And if Robinson isn't healthy, I think Miller fits very nicely into that role. So this guy, again, big play potential, fast, strong, good routes, great focus. He can have a couple big bust-out games here in the future, and I would be very willing to take a flyer on him. He could very well lead you to a fantasy championship.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the Great Debate Show. Please follow us on Twitter at SleeperWire Show. You can find Steve on there at Toledo Radio, and I am at Professor Chris, actually Prof_Chris SW. On the Sleeper app, you can find me at Professor Chris, and Steve is on there at SW Steve. And then you can also find me on the Fantasy Life app at Professor Chris there as well. Steve, thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thanks for having me, bud.
Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.